6 o'clock, I'll call this regularly scheduled meeting of Bridgewater Town Council to order. And I'll quickly mention that Mayor Mitchell and Deputy Mayor Tanner are out of town for a conference, so you guys are stuck with me tonight. So you have the agenda before you. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Nope.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as circulated?
So moved.
Wayne, and a seconder? Cheryl? All those in favor? Any opposed? I guess not, because everyone was in favor. Okay, so we'll move on to the announcements for the evening. Does anyone have any announcements? I'm sure we must.
Your Worship, I don't have an announcement, but I do have some comments on the Christmas parade we had this past Saturday evening. I think this might have been our 10th parade. Councillor Gray can correct me on that.
It's 11.
It's the 11th parade year for the parade. Turned out to be, the weather was fantastic, the fireworks were outstanding. The parade was the largest or longest, most floats we've had since we've started. And so everything turned out very, very well. I want to thank everyone for coming out and enjoying the parade. I want to thank all those businesses and organizations who took the time and spent some money to put the floats in the parade. It's without them, we don't have one. So it's really important that they participate, and they did in big numbers this year. So a big thank you to everyone and for all the workers who helped bring this together. It really was a good event. So thank you to everyone.
Was spectacular. Michael?
And if I may, we'd like to encourage all families in Bridgewater and Lunenburg County to walk the Hay Bale Snowman Trail and see Candy Cane Lane. And it's about 1.4 kilometers. It's a nice outdoor walk, and do some shopping downtown. So, thank you.
Just a couple announcements from the museum. First on the list is the Friends of the Desbridge Museum Society are holding a bake sale at the Bridgewater Mall C entrance on Friday, December the 1st, starting at 9:30. And that's just near the food court, just inside the C entrance by Sobeys. And on the 3rd, the museum itself is holding Holy Night Christmas open house on the 3rd at 2 p.m. Stars are brightly shining and the mice are hiding. There will be face painting, crafts, games, mystery, music, and munchies. Join us for family fun. Admission is a donation to the food bank, so I encourage everybody to take part. Thank you.
Is there any information with the Whimsical Children's Store?
Well, the children's store is on Saturday, but it won't be.
Right, it'll be
It won't after
this
the
day.
announcements. Yeah.
Any other announcements? Okay, then I'll just announce that, well, this is passed, but the Bridgewater Skate Park held a fundraiser on Saturday evening prior to the parade. They had popcorn, live bands, and a barbecue. It was very well supported, and I've been asked to pass along thanks for all those who did support, as well as to N&M Tattoo and Fresh Cuts, who supplied some of the barbecue supplies, and the Bridgewater Fire Department Band, who has always supported the park and once again lent their barbecue. And while I'm on the topic of the skate park, I think it's probably important to mention that the concrete work is done. It is a fantastic park. People are really excited to get out on it. However, we would like to mention that it is still an active construction site and not fully prepared for use, so there could be some safety issues, and we're asking people to please respect that it is an active construction zone with workers on it, and to please, I know it's difficult, but please try to wait for the official opening in the spring. We just want to make sure that everyone gets to use it safely.
Good advice.
We'll move along to the delegations. So we do have one scheduled delegation. That's a 10-minute delegation. Peggy Lee Williams, if you'd like to come up to the podium. Hi, Peggy. Welcome.
Hey, thanks. As everyone knows, they had the Harvey disaster in Texas. I go to Michigan, I think this is my 5th year that I've been in Michigan with blind camps, but I was given an opportunity through the Adventist Church in Michigan to take a training program with their disaster response program, and that took place the last part of September. And I was asked if I would like to go to Texas and help out with the Harvey disaster. So I thought that was really great, being from a small town, getting to go to help out other people and see what it was like and how they were making out. And when we got there, it was, the devastation was more than I thought from seeing it on TV. There were those big dumpsters that were completely overflowing with things they had to throw out from their apartments and their houses. And 2 weeks before I got there, they were actually floating. They told us they were floating their boats down the road, down the, I wouldn't say river, but down their roadways. They were, and when we got there, the water had receded enough that you could actually drive your vehicles on those roads. The one thing I did get to help with was a food distribution place. We served 152 families in one day. We had 2 great big transport trucks that came in full of food. We gave out all the food we possibly had. There was nothing left but a sea of potatoes is what we had left to give out. Another truck out of the blue comes in and was full of food, and the people that were still coming were very thankful that they could get this food to them. And I think about a lot of people who say they don't agree with what they get from a food bank, or they don't want it, or they just throw it out because it's no good or whatever. I brought something back from there that we gave to the people in Texas, and they were more than thankful to get what we could give to them. And this is, I mean, I'm sure everyone knows, it's the ration meals that they use in the military. We were giving those out by a box, and the people there were in tears because they could have meals for their children and be able to feed them and stuff. And it was just an all-around great experience. And being from Bridgewater, it was just amazing to be able to go and volunteer with them. And because I've volunteered since I was a young teenager in Bridgewater, so being able to go meant a lot to me, because that's what I do a lot of, is volunteer. And it was great to be there and be from Bridgewater and meet some of the people and help them out.
That's fantastic. What a great experience, and thank you for giving so much to our community and to now other communities even outside of our country. That's fantastic,
Yeah.
Peggy.
I even took a couple extra suitcases, and I took all the school supplies, and the RCMP gave me coloring books, and I took toothbrushes and toothpaste, and my airline sent all my luggage for free because I was going from here to help out with the Harvey disaster. And I do have photos there. I didn't do a thing, but I do have photos of some of the distribution center and giving out the food and stuff. So,
Does anyone have any questions for Peggy?
Not a
Councilor Thornton?
question, but I know Peggy since she was 13 and joined the junior fire department. That's how far back we've gone. We've been in touch over the years, and she's always been on volunteering and doing things, helped us out when we done a couple of, I think it was Halloween's. She was there, or Christmas on La Have, or whatever, Relay for Life. She's been helping out with that for years. So I just wanted to say thank you for all you've done for us. Appreciate it.
Yes, I think probably you could echo that from all of us. Thank you very much, and thank you for sharing your experience with us.
you're welcome. I just wanted everyone to know that someone from our little town went to help, and it was a great experience to see them. And in fact, my husband and I are actually going to eat the ration packets because I wanted to see what it was like to what they had to eat in Texas, to what they were eating. I wanted to see what it was like to have to eat one of the rations. So my husband doesn't know when I'm doing it, but we are going to try it and see what it's like. Yes.
Light a
Thank
candle
you.
to be romantic.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Peggy.
Thanks, Peggy.
There are no other delegations, so do I have to call for them even if there's no one here? Is it a formality that? I think we're okay. Okay, we'll move along. And we're on to minutes, and there are no minutes to approve this evening. Planning items. Is So we have 6.1, application for rezoning, special commercial C8 to 2-unit residential R2, 20 Pearl Street. Rick?
Good evening, members of council. You have before you a preliminary planning report for an application to rezone the property at 20 Pearl Street from special commercial C8 to 2-unit residential R2. The property is located close to the intersection of Pearl and Victoria Road. The wild carding mill is also at that intersection. I'd say 2 houses up on the right, and you'll find 20 Pearl Street, which is the former J.H. Horton Insurance Sales Office, just before the Centennial Trail where it crosses Pearl Street. The special commercial zone, it permits single-unit dwellings and 2-unit dwellings, in addition to a specific commercial use, and therefore, the special commercial zoning. In this case, that specific use that's permitted, in addition to single and 2-unit dwellings, is a insurance sales office. Special commercial zone it acts like a holding zone. It's grandfathering, if you want to use that term, commercial uses that pre-existed some of the zoning in the area, and the idea is that when that specific commercial use is discontinued, that it takes on the zoning as prescribed in the municipal planning strategy and the future land use map. This application is for 2-unit residential zoning, and that would be to enable 2 semi-detached dwelling units on separate lots. Through development permit and building permit issuance, the property has already been converted to a 2-unit residential building that is a permitted as of right use. The rezoning to the 2-unit residential zone enables a subdivision of that property, and that property line would be placed directly at the common wall of the 2 units, therefore creating 2 semi-detached dwelling units on separate lots. That's currently not a permission in the special commercial zone. You're only allowed 2 units, 1 2-unit dwelling on a single lot. So as the application meets all the policies of the municipal planning strategy and the intent of the municipal planning strategy, staff recommend that council refer the application to a public participation meeting, which is the next step, this being the preliminary planning report, next step being public participation meeting, and then a report back to council with comments and feedback from that meeting, along with more detailed planning analysis and a presentation. That meeting has been scheduled for Wednesday, December 6th at 6 p.m. in these council chambers.
Okay. So is there any discussion, any questions for Nick?
Is that the same, I think it was D8 or something like that, down on the corner of Jubilee and Exhibition Drive where Dakin said the corner store could only just be used for that one thing? We had to rezone that to allow similar things to happen?
That was the previous zone there was special commercials. Oh, no, sorry. It was neighborhood commercial, which is another restricted commercial designation, right. Type of zoning. The neighborhood commercial zone allows only neighborhood grocery and convenience stores, again, along with single unit and 2-unit dwellings. So that residential permission is there. So it's a similar zone, but not quite the same situation.
And I'm assuming the owners of the property before that had to go through all this work to get it changed to 8 in order to have their business there, because it's probably a commercial, residential before that.
The introduction of the C8 zoning, so the special commercial zoning, I believe it was part of the 1988 land use bylaw when zoning was really expanded from the previous bylaw was 1975. And the zoning was expanded upon, and at that point, some of these existing commercial uses that were in residential areas were given this special commercial zoning, which, again, the intent there is that in time, when that specific commercial use is discontinued or ceases to exist, then it through council, be reverted or changed to a residential zone, because it is in a residential area. So,
Good, thank you.
Any other discussion?
I'm just curious, the size of the lot, is there a minimum square footage in order to subdivide that?
Yep. So like all zones, the R2, the 2-unit residential zone, has a minimum area and a minimum frontage, so distance along a public street that needs to be satisfied in order for a subdivision to take place. Staff have reviewed a very conceptual plan of subdivision to ensure that that could happen, so that this process isn't all for naught. The frontage requirement and area requirement escape me at this very moment.
Okay, that's okay. So just looking at the map, it seems to be a triangular
Yes.
shape of property, so is that, I guess when it's divided, it won't actually be equal? Is that possible? Just going by the
It probably,
frontage?
the two lots in the
Yeah.
end will probably not be of equal size. The frontage may be similar for each dwelling unit,
Okay.
but the area for the one that's, I guess at the apex of the triangle where the Centennial Trail and Pearl
Right.
Street meet,
Mhm.
that lot will undoubtedly be the smaller of the two, but
Okay.
as development officer and the one that administers the subdivision bylaw, I'm confident that they will be able to meet the numbers.
Great, thank you.
Yes, I move the town council of the town of Bridgewater refer the application for rezoning bracket 20 Pearl Street to staff to undertake a public participation meeting in consideration of the requested LUB amendments on Wednesday, December 6, 2017 at 6 p.m.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Graves? All those in favor? And passed unanimously. Thanks. Okay, correspondence for information. We do have correspondence from Carol Publicover and the Breakfast Group regarding use of the former Bridgewater Memorial Arena. This was discussed recently at a discussion session among council and staff. The facility is currently with staff and is not one that council has identified or expressed there needing to be a rush on, so there's time for conversation and consideration. Is there anything that you would add to that?
No, simply as council's direction, we're bringing forward for budget a report on the cost implications of stabilizing the facility for some time.
Thank you. Okay, correspondence for action. Sorry, is there any discussion around that correspondence? We've got everything we need from that? Okay. And correspondence for action, we have some from Souls Harbor Rescue Mission, request for tax exemption, bylaw 192. Who takes that one?
Two, if you need me to explain it.
Maybe just a brief overview? I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but.
Exactly. So this is, this meets the requirements for our tax exemption bylaw, and as such, the bylaw lays out the process for how that happens, and this will initiate that process by moving this forward.
So is there any discussion on that correspondence for action?
I guess just a question, do we provide something to the businesses or the organizations every year saying that they are getting a tax savings, or that we're not putting taxes on their bills, and there's a savings of so many thousands of dollars? I don't know if we're doing that now, and I guess the point is when boards change and executive directors change and that kind of stuff, and they may not know what the town is doing for them. So it's just a way to show the board that the town has got their back.
So through the chair to council, I can provide further information on that. However, there's a requirement under the bylaw that there's an annual reporting, so you don't roll over as an exemption without providing your financials annually. So there is a relationship that's ongoing, and the board would be aware that they're getting that charitable
Okay,
tax
good.
exemption.
I'll bring the motion forward.
Okay,
I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater endorse the intent of the amendment to Chapter 192 Tax Exception Bylaw for named registered charitable organizations, adding 136 Pleasant Street Souls Harbor Rescue Mission, the whole to Schedule A, and proceed to a second reading of the bylaw at a council meeting to be held on January the 8th, 2018, and authorize staff to public all public notices pursuant to Section 168 of the Municipal Government Act.
okay, and seconder? Councillor Graves? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, just to be clear. All right. And we move on to the South Shore Housing Action Coalition Housing Needs Assessment. So we all received the assessment, and so the request is that we pass this along to staff to determine if there are any opportunities available for the town of Bridgewater to support their goals and missions to move forward. I would entertain a motion to refer this to staff if you wish, or otherwise if so desired.
I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater refer the housing needs assessment to staff to determine opportunities for action for subsequent consideration by council.
Okay, so discussion, Councilor
Second it.
Thorburn? Oh, sorry, you're seconding it, sorry.
Second motion,
And we need that first. Okay, now we can have discussion. Councilor McGinnis?
If I may, what are we looking for staff to give back? And what is our role in housing, affordable housing?
Probably what we're giving back.
So through the chair to council, that's a good question, because that's been the challenge with most municipalities dealing with the housing file for some time. And the needs assessment does touch on that. It's interesting there on Friday, sometime last week, the federal government made an announcement around a large housing program. So coming back to council with regards to this, and specifically, are we able to find a path to some of this $40 billion from the federal government to help us achieve our community housing objectives? We'll be able to bring forward information to council on options. At this point, I'm not familiar with what's coming down.
If I may, I have just a little bit of a concern, because the federal government did announce something that's going to occur 2019 or 2020, and it's a welcome plan, if indeed to go ahead with it. My concern is, if it turns out to be like maybe the infrastructure funding where the Fed's put in a third, the province put in a third, they look for us to put in a third, that's a whole new kettle of fish for us. And I'm not sure I want to go there. Because I'm not sure that's a role of our council. If, we're changing policies and things of that nature, I can live with, but we don't have deep pockets to contribute to affordable housing. And that's my concern.
Any further discussion?
Yeah,
Councilor Thorburn?
we've done a few things already, and one thing that comes to mind is bonus density, where we allow developers to add additional units for affordable housing. We certainly in the past have adjusted the number of parking spots to allow the developers more room and we've done some zoning changes. So I think that as a town, we're trying to be at the forefront of this and doing all we can to help affordable housing.
Yes, to that point, staff do understand that particularly through the service exchange, housing is in Nova Scotia generally a provincial responsibility, although we're the municipality, and when we have opportunity to find policy solutions for the betterment of our community, we look at it. So absolutely, it's under that veil that we'll be looking at the federal programming to see, is there something there that we can help or point developers to?
Any other questions? I just have one point as staff move forward with this, this work. I think we've often looked for where we aren't directly involved with housing, and that's a very difficult leap to make and not one that we necessarily have decided we want to make. We've looked at back doors and how can we keep more money in residents' pockets so that housing, you know, even if their housing isn't affordable, they can live a better quality of life, so that, you know, that includes the bus, it includes the PACE program,
Yep,
I'm sorry,
energy.
the home energy program, and a number of programs like that. So it may not be directly through housing, it may be through kind of back doors. And I've personally liked that approach, so just as a kind of note going
Mhm.
forward. Any other discussion before we?
Question?
Question has been called. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, a little more work for you. Happy Monday. Reports and recommendations. We have the building inspection report for October 2017. Larry's not here, so I hope you don't have questions, because I can't answer them. Nick probably can, though. Are there any questions?
Or we can take them away.
I don't have a question, but I think it's worthy to note, you know, what's happening in town. You know, 13 million in change in new developments this year, new building permits, that's a significant number for any town, especially a town our size. That shows that, you know, we're still in a growth mode, and that's all very, very positive. So people are choosing Bridgewater to live, and that's just proof of it. So it is a worthy number.
And I'd also note that as per the request of council, we've provided more information on our monthly report.
You're right, Councilor McGinnis, it is a nice pat on the back every month. For staff as well. And we don't move to accept that report, do we? No. Okay. So then we have tender 17-12E, salt hauling. And we drove in flurries tonight, so this seems a little bit timely. Can we get a motion on the floor, and then we'll follow with discussion?
I'll make a motion, you were
Thank you.
that town council for the town of Bridgewater endorse the recommendation of engineering staff and award tender 17-12E salt hauling to the lowest bidder, Elmsdale Landscaping Limited, for a unit price of $28.46, including HST per ton, $25.81 net HST.
Thank you, Councilor Fajar. Anyone second? Councilor McGinnis? Any discussion?
Question?
All those in favor? So passed unanimously. And the next tender, 17-11E, supply of a new wheel loader backhoe. There is a motion there.
I would move that town council for the town of Bridgewater endorse the recommendation of staff and award tender 17-11E, supply of a new wheel loader backhoe to Atlantic Tractors and Equipment Limited to purchase a new 2018 Caterpillar 450F wheel loader backhoe for a total price of $198,166.64, including HST, $179,704.40 net HST, including the following provisional items: supply an additional set of rims, supply and installation of a backhoe thumb complete with hydraulics, 40 ditching grading bucket, and extended warranties, and a trade-in allowance of $17,500 for the 1998 John Deere loader backhoe.
Do we have a seconder? Councilor Fajar? Thank you. Any discussion?
Just worthy to note that it's considerably under budget.
Mhm.
Mine was $40,000, which is always useful. Absolutely.
Sure is. We can find places for that, right?
We can find places for that.
All
I
right.
just had a question. I know Larry's not here to answer, but in the package, there was 3 different warranty right up to the premier. And I was just wondering, in the motion, it says extended warranties, but I just was unclear as to, did that include the premier package, or is there 3 packages of warranties? I was just,
Just checking here.
they were all,
So the Atlantic Tractors is a 60 months premier warranty. Yes, you're right.
so is there 3 different levels of warranties, or just, I was unsure?
There's 3 different options, and they selected the most comprehensive
Okay.
extended warranty.
Okay, thank you.
That's the information you need?
Yeah, I was just,
Okay.
I wasn't sure if, based on the motion. as
Okay,
well.
right, yeah. And are you comfortable with the motion as is, or should we amend it? I think it's outlined in the document, isn't it?
Perhaps we could refer to the document number just to provide an extra level of
Because when I read the document initially, I wasn't sure, like, where it did give 3 different prices for warranties. I wasn't sure if that's all included, or was it, does anybody else
Yeah.
see that, or?
Yeah, so
Yes.
can a
Yeah.
reference
Okay.
to the document be added without, do we have to amend it?
I would say we could do a friendly amendment. if that's
Okay,
with
everyone's
the
happy with the
mover,
friendly
just
amendment?
Providing clarification.
Sure.
You're okay with that? Okay. Right, so we'll just add a reference to
Yeah,
the
that would be
document.
fine.
Okay. And any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Passed unanimously. And so we just got by Christmas on the Lehave, and Sandy is madly at work on Canada Day on the Lehave.
Okay, so yes, good evening. And yeah, I know it is really hard to start thinking about Canada Day when we're just heading into the Christmas season, holiday season. But our committee is still hard at work already, planning for next year. And so I'm just going to provide a little update on behalf of the committee as per our terms of reference that we're asked to do that to council each year, and also to give a couple recommendations concerning the 2018 event. Let's see. So I first would like to acknowledge our committee. We had an amazing committee. Everybody worked really hard, was very positive, weren't afraid to put any new ideas out on the table, and I think they worked really hard to step up and raise the bar for this year's 2017 event. Our committee members, as you see up there, Ron Mitchell, who's dancing in the picture there, Art Eaton, who did our sound, Sunny Hubley, Emma Williams, our youngest member, Jan Merrill, Kelly Saxby, Rita Langdreff, Councillor Cheryl Frazier, and Councillor Jennifer McDonald, myself, and we had a subcommittee of Chris Johnson and Sandra Mailman, who worked really hard on our banner committee. We had a vision and worked hard towards that last year. It was to celebrate our country's cultural and ethnic diversity, to bring the festivities back to King Street, incorporating the town's waterfront and Bridgewater Park, with a focus on honoring and celebrating our First Nations, to be inclusive, welcoming to all people, all abilities, and all ages, to celebrate Canada 150 and our unique heritage, to create partnerships with local businesses, groups, and organizations, to provide good music, entertainment, and lots of food, and just for the event to be fun and affordable, and again, to raise the bar. And the following few slides are just going to really to show you a little bit about the energy and the spirit of this event. And again, we did have partnerships, municipality, the town, and there's the manager of the Bridgewater Superstore, Atlantic Superstore. Again, we were honoring and celebrating our First Nations and had a youth Mi'kmaq dancer, Lacey Pennell, who participated in the opening ceremony and also in another ceremony at Pidgeonooska Park, and she was a great addition to the event. Parade of Sail, The Parade of Sail was a highlight of the event. We had the Nova Scotia Schooner Association. Our committee is already planning for, again, as I said, for 2018. The Nova Scotia Schooner Association are on board, and they're already saying they plan to have double the amount of, or hoping to have double the amount of schooners at this event, and we hope to add a lot of more activities and events around the Schooner Association and the Nova Scotia, and we had the Lehigh River Yacht Club last year as well. People got a chance to go on board the schooners, and we had lots of people. We were really, happy with the turnout for this year's event. Excellent quality entertainment. That's the Buchanan's there, but several music groups. Cultural events, very quality, high quality cultural activities. This is with the Serpentine dancers who did the Bollywood belly dancing and hoop dancing. They were pretty amazing. Atlantic Cirque.
She was funny.
And again, as part of our vision is to welcome everybody, all ages, all abilities, all people, and we feel that we achieved that. Of course, multicultural, that's the Maritime Center for African Dance, and they really brought King Street, or made King Street come alive, and that's something we want to keep working towards next year, is to have that music, that energy, and spirit on King Street as well as in our parks. Oops, all right. So yeah, we wanted to have something for kids, the balloon twisting, again, cultural activities, Atlantic Cirque. Again, lots of things for kids, face painting. And do you remember, I forget her name now. We had
Justine Texiera, she's Miss Canada?
She was in the
Yeah.
pageant, yeah. We had a mad science show, so a little bit of education and fun at the same time. The inflatables. And we also wanted to have activities for teens, which they really enjoyed, some of the tattoo artists that we had there. And there was things for the big kids too, and we see when Councillor Fragier participated in the axe throwing. Again, it's bringing back some of our heritage, our lumberjack heritage to Bridgewater. And again, when we were saying we wanted to incorporate, we want to have good food, and we also want to incorporate our community groups and organizations, and this is Bridgewater Garden Club. The one part that we are going to really work hard on next year is having more food. That was a real challenge for us to get any food trucks down, to get food vendors. We had the Bridgewater Garden Club, they sold strawberry shortcake, but they sold out within like about an hour or so that the event just got going, and they sold out pretty quickly, so we're going to really work hard at that next year. Again, other community events, there was a Hillendale 4-H, had the petting zoo, and again, one of our aims is having fun, and we had the color toss in the evening with art happening, and kids just love that. It has a cultural element to it, and it's just fun. And the energy flowed into the evening, and that was one of our goals too. In past events, we started a little bit earlier than in the day, and then by the time we got to evening, we'd have a little bit of a gap, and the energy would kind of drop. So we had some good energy into the evening, and the fire department were a great help with their events. Okay. So, kind of hard to see that a little bit, but in 2017 we budgeted for the town to give a contribution of $17,000, but the actual contribution currently is around $11,500. Our revenues exceeded our expectation. We received $7,000 from Celebrate Canada versus the $2,000 we'd received in previous years. And a lot of that we think is attributed to that we did incorporate First Nations and multicultural cultures in our event, and that is important for the funding. We received 1,000 from Canada 150. And we had great support from Michelin, giving 2,500, and many other organization businesses in our area. The police services were under budget by about 1,500, and parks staff support was under budget as well. But everything kind of, a lot of things balanced out. Our advertising was over budget, but we felt it was well worth that money. We had some really creative opportunities for advertising with picnic studios, had the drones out. They did a nice video of taping of the entire event, so we got some nice promotional stuff for next year. Just some budget considerations. Again, the committee really does feel that we raised the bar in 2017, and we want to achieve that standard again in 2018. We will work really hard, and the committee is committed to working hard and coming under budget and being fiscally responsible. This event requires a big commitment, though, from our volunteers and staff, and we are a little concerned about volunteer burnout. We have lost our banner subcommittee, Chris Johnson and Sandra Mailman, who worked really hard for many years on our banner program, and so we don't have them back this year. But we do hope to have continued support from our community and from the province for fundraising. Although again, that's not guaranteed. So to keep the momentum going in 2018, it is recommended that the unspent portion of the 2017-18 Canada Day on LaHave budget be used towards hiring a part-time coordinator. And that person would take minutes, support the committee, all the subcommittees, the promotions, kids zone, sponsorship, banner, and they'd also work at seeking other revenue sources. And other events in the town have had support from coordinators such as the Growing Green Festival and Energy Fair, as well as had a coordinator to help support it. We'd also like to transfer any remaining unspent funds from the 2017-18 reserve to be used for the 2018 event, again, which is currently over $5,000. And we also, lastly, would like to have pre-approval of the 2018-19 Canada Day on the LaHave event budget in the amount of $17,000 to have a good event, to have a strong event, to have and even, as we say, raise the bar higher than last year. We really need to start planning now, and we need to make some commitments now, so that's why we're asking for pre-approval for next year. And any additional increase to the town's contribution would be considered during the budget deliberations. I mean, we have no plan for that now, but as we're going through between now and budget time, if there is any additional ask, we will wait till that time to make the contribution, to make that ask. And again, that's just the recommendations. Do you have any questions at all?
Are there any questions for Sandy?
I'll also go first. It's a great idea, and it was a great event, but we have a lot of committees in town that need support, not just Canada Day. Christian on LaHave could use some support as well, and as well as other small committees that we have going. So I would be in somewhat support if that person was shared amongst the different committees, not just tied to one. I'm not sure I could support a motion to pre-approve a budget of $17,000 when it's been in the past. We've always done that anyway, so I'm not sure where I am on that.
Any other comments or questions?
Well, we don't have a motion before, so.
Right. Would you like to put a motion on the floor?
I'll put it on the floor. I'm not sure where we're going to vote, but I'll put it on the floor, absolutely. I move the town council of the town of Bridgewater endorse the recommendation of the Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture to use the unspent portion of the 2017-18 Canada Day on LaHave budget to hire a part-time events coordinator, and that any remaining unspent funds be transferred from 2017-18 to the reserve to be used for the 2018-19 event.
So that leaves the pre-approval as a second motion, just so that you're aware that there are two separate motions. Now, is there any discussion?
Just briefly,
Oh, sorry, we need a seconder.
oh, we don't have a second.
Sandra's keeping me in
I thought
line.
we did.
Sure.
I'll
Sure,
second the motion.
Councillor Fager.
Just,
Okay.
just briefly, it's a departure from what we've been doing, but I think that's something we're gonna have to get used to. Hiring some help to help with some of these events. I know with the Christmas on La Have, I think the committee's made up primarily of council members.
Yeah.
We might have one or two from each side. Getting more difficult every day to get volunteers, and it's something we're gonna have to get our heads wrapped around and accept if we wanna have these events. So I will be supporting the motion. My only concern is when we carry forward from each year and we have a bigger and bigger event, that leads to more and more money. And, but I think I can support that for this year.
Any other comment? Councillor
Where does
Graves?
the 280 hours come from? Why that number?
It was, I didn't bring along, but it's about averaging about 10 hours a week over 28 weeks. But early on, there may be, less hours, and we may get a little heavier, a little more hours as we get closer to the event as well, or sort of early on and at the end.
There are Canada Manpower grants for this, do you think?
Well,
And do you have someone,
yeah,
do you have someone in mind to do it, or?
there is someone that would, I know someone that would take on that role. Of course, we'd have to be open and transparent and give that opportunity to others.
But do you think there's grants available?
Well, there are not any other grants that I'm aware of that would, right now, that would fill in this position. We do get funding, as you say, from Canada, from the Canada, Celebrate Canada funding, and we do get some funding for summer students, but they aren't really on early enough to kind of help us and have that continuity that we're looking for. We are looking into other opportunities. There might be an opportunity with with someone who's in the 55 plus category for some funding, but nothing that is confirmed at this point that we can, say for sure.
Any other questions? Councillor
That
Brewer?
280 hours, is that just for Canada Day? Is this what you're telling us?
That's what we were, that's what the idea was.
So you need
for
280
Canada
hours
Day.
just for Canada Day, that's not counting,
And
so.
just for a little comparison, but for the was it the Growing Green Festival, and for the Energy Fair last year, the coordinator was putting in over 500 hours, and they had a second person with Growing Green, was a summer student, so it was about 700 hours that was being put into planning these events. So 280 hours is really not a lot of hours for that. And if there is any opportunity to share, of course, we certainly would, but, I'm sure a few hours could go into another event, but it's really 280 hours is very minimal. I know Councillor Fager has spent a lot of time in sponsorship before, and I believe you said that you spent over a couple hundred hours
2 years
in
ago, it
that
was
alone.
200
So
hours.
280 hours is very minimal and just really going to help support the committee and help take a little weight off of even myself, that I can put energy into some other things and have someone else that we can all lean on. And I think it'd be great value. And they will be able to go out and try source other opportunities for funding that you've suggested. So that's a part of the plan as well. And hopefully we're going to keep working towards being as fiscally responsible and economical as we can.
Councillor
Yeah.
Fager?
Thank you. I just want to comment, I sit on the Canada, trying to get my head around Canada Day, and we've tried to formulate subcommittees and trying to make it manageable, working groups within the committee. But I find, as you get trying to oversee even just the task of taking minutes, for example, and some of those many things, follow-up emails and trying to make connections, those all take hours, and I will be supporting the motion because I know what we do as volunteers on the committee And we're always looking for more members, and it's been difficult to recruit sometimes for more volunteers.
Yeah.
Councillor Sorkin?
Yeah, how many available hours does a staff person provide per year? Do you have any idea how many available hours? Like, it used to be 1,060 or something like that when I was back as a manager, productive hours, after you take your sick time, your vacation time. And I don't know what that number is, but maybe it's something that in the budget deliberations, we should be looking at a full-time person, because we have a lot of committees that could use that help. And as a matter of fact, we had some help that we let go a couple years ago in the budget process, that used to come to our meetings and take our minutes and send out agendas and minutes and whatnot. So that's certainly a good topic for budget deliberations.
Any other comments or discussion? If I may, just to kind of comment on Sandy's point around the hours. The former director of Parks and Rec asked me to kind of track how many hours are put into sponsorship, and in the following year I put in excess of 200 hours in that year into the sponsorship program. And I have never been able to get anyone to replace me. So I'm still doing it now. I've tricked my sister into joining me on the committee, and I've gotten her to help. But between the two of us, it's nice to be able to split those hours. But it's very difficult to keep volunteers when you put a 200-hour job on their laps. So, and when people can't do it or leave the committee, it ends up falling on our staff, and then they have to find that somewhere in their schedule, or the ball is kind of dropped on the event. And we all know that Sandy will sometimes, quite unfortunately, load herself up too much rather than allowing the ball to be dropped. So I think we've definitely proven a need for some extra help on that committee, and certainly the former director of Parks and Rec was very smart in asking me to kind of track those hours, because I didn't recognize it until I actually had a record of them. So, and I want to congratulate you and the rest of the committee on a fantastic event last year, and certainly hope it will be just as great in the coming year. So with that said, question, all those in favor? Okay, that's
Now, there's one
passed
more motion.
unanimously.
Yep.
A second motion, would anyone like to put that motion on the floor?
Yes, I move the town council, of the town of Bridgewater, pre-approve the 2018-19 Canada on the LaHaye budget in an amount of $17,000.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Councillor Fougere, any discussion on that motion?
My only comment would be, I don't think there's any question we're gonna have a celebration on Canada Day, and I think it's important that they know upfront what money they're going to have. So, it's a fairly simple, process as far as I'm concerned.
Any other comments? I was putting my hand up. You had mentioned that any additional spending would come back to council. What does that mean? Is that above and beyond $17,000?
That's right. That would be if the committee between now and, budget time feel that for if anything comes up that we should, require additional funding, that we would put it through the budget process. So right now there is no plan for that, but just to putting that out there that, possible.
Okay. All right.
Question?
All those in favor? All opposed? We have one opposed and one in favor. I'm forgetting to vote, by the way, but I've been in favor. Okay. Thank you, Sandy. The Joint Municipal Accountability and Transparency Committee report from the Audit Committee. I'm going to hand it right over to you.
So this stems from the report that was done last year on accountability and transparency, which ended up resulting in amendments to the Municipal Government Act, initially tabled in the spring, but they ended up being put through in the fall sitting, mostly around expenses and the work that was there. So one of the recommendations was to have a non-elected official sit on the audit committee, and it gave us some direction that we had to have an audit committee happen at least twice per year. Typically, most municipalities in Nova Scotia, the audit committee was performed directly by their council, and this will, which my understanding is how it worked in the town of Bridgewater, as it did with most other people. So going forward, we would have at least 2 audit committee meetings per year, one in the late winter, early spring to review expenses, and then one to receive the audit from the auditor. There may be other meetings as required by the committee, and we will put out a notice for the solicitation of volunteer opportunity for the non-elected public member for the audit committee.
Great. So, anybody willing to put the motion on the floor? Councillor Thorburn?
I would move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater approve the terms of reference for an audit committee for the town as presented in document 17-184, and further direct staff to advertise for a non-elected public member to participate on the audit committee.
Thank you. And seconder? Councillor McGuinness? Any discussion? Councillor
So are
Grace?
there any requirements for this person in terms of background? So does he or she need a financial background? And how does one choose if there's 4 or 5 people, if there's lineups at the door?
Yes, so that'll come to council, and we'll review those, and council can select, as you would with any other committee.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I just think it's a good move, and
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so motion is on the floor. Call for question? Are you ready? Okay, all those in favor? I'm gonna vote this time. Okay. Moving on to an authorized trading person. And I'm gonna send it right over to you again.
Sure.
This is easy.
This is generally a housekeeping matter. As the new CAO, I need approval from council, and I've asked that council include the director of finance as well to be the authorized person to deal with our investments. We have 2, one for the Brookside Cemetery Commission that has a value of about $321,000, and then there's a scholarship fund with just over $20,000 in it, and both are currently managed by Scotia McLeod, or Scotia Wealth Management, and simply we need council's authority to be able to do that work.
Councillor Fisher?
I'll make a motion.
Great, thank you.
That town council for the town of Bridgewater endorse the recommendation of the CAO and appoint the director of finance and the chief administrative officer as separate signing and trading authorities required for town investment accounts.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Thorburn, any questions, comments?
Question.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Nope. And Municipal Joint Services Board Agreement. So this is the agreement that has come for its 4-year review. All councils have had a chance to look at it, and we provided this council provided some feedback on some wording that we wanted to see added to improve the clarity of the document. And is there anything you can add to that?
Sure. So through the chair to council, I've reviewed the review wording with, or the proposed changes with counterpart CAOs. This memo will go to the other councils for approval and consideration. It was asked that I modify our request respecting 13A 3, which is vote the approval for the addition of services review from the current terminology was from each partner council, meaning all 3 of us would have to approve to, we had put together some wording on the floor that came up with 2 out of 3 with at least 51%, and I was asked to change that to very simply 2 out of 3 member councils, So bringing that forward, and I'll send that revised request to the other two councils, unless there's a concern with that.
Okay.
Just a
Go ahead.
question of the CAO. Will that have to come back to council for a vote?
So what was our motion? Let me just double
Yeah.
check. Was our motion that we approved it with those two amendments?
With the 51%, I think.
So,
Just looking back.
Yeah.
I believe it was actually put forward to a future meeting.
yes,
The
come
actual
back.
motion was deferred.
So it'll have to come back to council.
Yep.
Great.
So we don't put a motion on the floor now, that will be at a future
Yes,
meeting, okay.
correct.
Okay, so that's all we, oh, sorry, are there any further discussion on that? Everyone's happy with the direction it's moving in? Okay, and we don't need a motion, we're not doing anything, okay. We have no new business, no sundry, which brings us to adjournment, if we have a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Councillor McGuinness and Councillor Fougere. We do have an in-camera meeting next door, under Municipal Government Act, Section 22-2A, acquisition, sale, lease, and security of municipal property, and another matter under the MGA, Section 22-2E, contract negotiations. We'll see you there.
Mhm.